Yeah, it was very, very likable.
All right, it is 4 o'clock and I'll call the City Plan Commission meeting to order. And I'll call the roll. Mayor Sorensen is present. Alder Mitchell. Here. Ryan Sazma. Here. Jerry Jones. Yep. Marilyn Montemayor. Here. Dave Hoffman. Here. John Matiska. Here. All right, for those in attendance, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the City Plan Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our February 15th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. All right. First item for discussion. We have 3.1, application for conditional use with exceptions by Martin Lambert to operate a dermatology medical office at 832 Michigan Avenue. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. Martin Lambert is here. We'll be right with you, Martin, if you want to step up to the microphone. So what we're taking a look is 832 Michigan Avenue. This is kitty corner to Trilling's Hardware and directly to the east of Schultz & Schultz Insurance. It's been a facility that's been vacant for a little bit of time. There's been some other uses of the facility, and you can see that it's a little bit dated and weathered with some of the landscaping and building. And luckily we have Martin here who's looking at it, doing a dermatology clinic from the site. One of the first things he wanted to do before he invested a lot of time, energy, and money into the improvements that may take place as far as landscaping, paving, and some architectural improvements was to make sure that the Plan Commission was going to approve a clinic from the site. So what Lambert is taking a look at is to operate that dermatology clinic from the site. It's an outpatient physician-run practice which specializes in skin treatment for patients of all ages. As an outpatient medical practice, services are offered during normal business operating hours, Monday through Friday, and no emergency medical services are offered. This would be a newly established professional business, and he intends to hire and create 4 to 6 new jobs and have approximately 20 patients per day. The exterior footprint would not change, but they're looking at improving the appearance of the building facade as well as repair the windows, roof, and shingles. Interior changes include a few structural changes as well as some aesthetic upgrades. The parking site is of adequate size for the expected patronage. However, it's their intention to pave and mark the parking in order to improve the aesthetics consistent with professional practice. All intended upgrades of the building and landscaping intend to create an environment more consistent with a professional practice. As a dermatology aims to improve physical well-being and appearance, it's very important to have a building and property that reflect these priorities, and we'd like to have more greenery present on the property or tidier landscaping and more visibility to improve the building. You can see right now there's a conceptual photo of what Mr. Lambert may be proposing that would be potentially coming back to the Plan Commission after the Plan Commission would consider approving this, and then you'd have to stick in the time and money to do the work necessary for these improvements. So you can kind of see greening up the lawn, getting rid of that a lot of that landscaping at that corner that presently hides the building, adding some paving, adding some parking. But this is just a conceptual plan, similar to other things where we've had gravel in the past. Staff will work with the applicant, and we are thinking about giving June 2nd of 2023 for the paving to get done. Other than that, I can answer any questions. Staff is recommending approval of the proposal, and I can answer any questions, and the applicant's here as well.
Any additional comments or feedback you'd like to add?
No, well, thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. No, we would like, basically, thank you for the kind words. It's, Steve summarized it perfectly. We're looking to run a dermatology practice in that location, and we're basically seeking approval for the conditional permit. That way we know that it's something that city would approve before we invest money into that, purchasing the property and making all the improvements. But we're looking to basically improve the site, improve the exterior as well as the interior, also landscaping and paving the area and make it look professional, which would be in conjunction with our business plan. So I guess this is it. I don't know if you guys have any questions regarding the project.
Questions for the applicant, Marilyn?
Not any questions, but just a comment. That will be a unique building. That will look, people will know how to find you. It's a pretty building.
Thank you.
What was it before, Steve?
It was, originally it was a gas station,
Oh.
I was told, and then it was some sort of insurance agency or debt collectors.
Yeah, I think it was
the
a
most
debt
recent.
collector the last 5-10 years or so.
I mean, you can't really see, it's well hidden over the,
Facade for a
greenery.
debt collector.
Right, and he probably didn't want people knowing, so. So I think it's an excellent opportunity for Mr. Lambert to do the clinic there and then have the opportunity to come back and to clean this up, because when you take a look at the photos and see it at that intersection, it's definitely the one
Needs
spot on that intersection that really has an opportunity to revitalize that section and that property.
Dave?
I'm just curious, I remember when that was Batke service station. Is there any environmental problems that you're gonna deal with there?
No, we actually had phase 1 and phase 2 environmental survey done, and they passed, so there should not be any issues. The tanks that used to be there were removed in 2002, and
Oh,
everything seems to be okay, so.
Great, sounds good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Anyone else here to speak on this item? Motions?
I'll make that motion to approve, yes.
Second.
Motion second, final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next, 3.2, application for conditional use with exceptions by Jim Petter to construct 2 new second-floor apartments at 516 North 8th Street. Steve?
I don't know, Mayor, if there's anyone here for this item? I don't know if we want to move this to the end, or if you want me to go through this, or hold it, table it, wait till the applicant comes?
Was there any discussion about him being late for the meeting or not?
No, I didn't hear from him.
Okay. Commission members, any thoughts?
Why don't we wait till the end and then address it?
All right, we'll hold that till the end.
Sounds good. Yep. Yep.
All right, 3.3, application for conditional use permit with exceptions by Mao and Associates to construct a new scooter coffee drive-through at parcel 59281431722, located directly south of New Cousin Subs at 2720 South Business Drive. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. We have Tom Snyder here from Mao & Associates, and a couple of the owner, I'm sorry, sir, what's your name again?
It's David.
And David from Bayland Builders. So what we're taking a look at, this is the property that was just to the south of the old Gillies and now the New Cousins that's being constructed off of Business Drive. This property used to be a old car wash facility, self-service car wash. So Scooters is a coffee, serves a variety of hot and cold drinks such as coffees, smoothies, and teas. Food would be offered focusing on breakfast items and baked goods. Scooters is looking to construct a 664 square foot building to house operations for a drive-through coffee shop operation. The store will be drive-through only. Customers will order and pick up from the vehicles, and Scooters projects about 300 customers per day or 2,100 per week. Patrons will enter Scooters from a single driveway entrance for both ingress and egress. Driveway will encircle the 660 square foot building in the center of the property. Between the driveway and the property lines, landscaping will be planted and maintained. Customers with vehicles will enter off of South Business Drive and queue into one of the 2 drive-through lanes. Magnetic detector loops will identify if a customer is at the menu boards for service. From there, customers will pay for and receive goods at the building itself. Customers will exit back through the single driveway. Employees will park on the 8 parking stalls. Refuse will be maintained in a dumpster at the northwest corner of the property. Projected hours to run are 7 days a week, opening around 5 to 6 a.m. and closing near 7 p.m. And the store will generally have 2 to 5 employees with a maximum 5 employees on a given shift. Scooters is also proposing to install 7 wall signs, a monument sign, and 2 directional sign, and some miscellaneous menu boards on the site. They we'll discuss a little bit more, but we will talk about the 7 wall signs. There's a variance that's requested for the signage. The applicant is proposing to reduce the number of access drives from 2 to 1 on the property, and there's a number of turning movements along this section of South Business Drive, so creating 1 new driveway minimizes the number of turning movements in this area, which is safer from a pedestrian vehicular perspective. The Scooter's Coffee site plan shows the monument sign to be located at the northeast corner of the site. The signage plan showed the monument sign to be located at the southeast corner of the site. Staff doesn't really have any issues with either location, but the applicant should be aware that I believe the Cousins is locating their sign at their southwest east corner of their property, so you might just want to take a look at that. I think it's up now. And so when you're taking a look at that, just eyeball it and see where you'd prefer to install that, what makes the most sense. Other than that, the applicant on the site plan right now, there's an arrow for the right that points straight ahead. We probably want to make that a right turn lane because you can't go straight over there. So other than that, staff was, I'm sorry, there's several exceptions that are being requested. One is to have 7 wall signs. And so what they're looking at is they have the scooters, let's see here. They have wall signs on each of the building elevations. So their main scooters signs on the 4 building elevations. And then you can see on the top left, there are what are referred to as 3 I believe snap frame signs, I believe they're referred to as, and I think they advertise like their specials and things like that. So typically the maximum permitted is 4 wall signs, which you see on the elevations. They're asking for those 3 additional snap wall signs to advertise to their customers. They are requesting to have a 10-foot tall monument sign instead of an 8-foot tall monument sign. There are some other signs along South Business Drive that are monument signs that are at that 10-foot level, and then asking for variance from the locational landscaping requirements. So staff was recommending approval subject to the conditions. I can answer any questions. The applicants are here for this.
Any additional commentary?
I have no additional comments. Dave?
Commissioners? Jerry?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have a problem with the snap signs on the sides of the building. It's better than the stick-on ones you see at most restaurants. My questions revolve, if you could go back to the site plan, is there any ingress egress between the 2 lots, the Cousins lot and your lot? Can you go back and forth at any point there? No. Okay, so it'll be right turn only. Second question always revolves with these types of facilities around the stacking. Will you have appropriate enough room for cars not to trail off into South Business Drive?
Very good question.
Which we run into with other locations, and we've had a coffee shop here at this near this location before. So that's always the one thing that comes to mind. That's a super busy road, and having cars waiting to queue in would not be good. It looks like you have enough, but can you walk us through what those requirements are?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and for us as franchisees, we have 2 locations, so I'm using them as reference because that would be a store that's operating now and I could use it as a reference point. We have one on South Oneida, just south of Lambeau Field in Green Bay, which is a very busy road. And it's a similar setup, but there's not a dual menu board. And we can fit about close to 20 cars within the lot. And we haven't seen an issue in Green Bay yet. We're also on East Mason in Green Bay, which is over 20,000 cars a day. I think this is 17 something. And we haven't had an issue yet because scooters is a little bit different than probably you're familiar with, like Starbucks or Dunkin' or Big B, because it's much faster. So if you see 10 cars in a line, those cars are out of there in like 6 minutes. Whereas in other businesses, they're probably going to be longer. So usually when you open a Chick-fil-A in a community or a Popeyes or someone new, they line up and the cars are there forever and it's blocking traffic. We haven't had that problem yet on busier roads because it's just a much faster experience. So the cars continually move and don't stack up. I mean, you're taking my word for it, but that's what we've seen in the 2 locations we have in Green Bay.
Great, thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, and the requirement is to have a 100-foot stack from the pass-through before you enter the pass-through window, and then 40 after, and they are meeting that.
I guess I just have a general question. I'm curious why you chose this location, and I guess I'm not opposed to it, but I know there's a Dunkin' really close and then a Big B Coffee really close, so I just was thinking, was wondering what your thoughts were, with competition that close.
Yeah.
Being the new guy, so.
Yeah, it's not undifferent than any other business. It's almost like, we also own and operate hotels. And if you ever notice, like, hotels stack up right next to each other, they call it the mall effect. So everybody wants to go in our business where the traffic is. And if you look at Sheboygan, there's probably 3 main roads you'd want to be on, one way or the other. And those are the 3 that everybody picks because that's where the cars are and that's what they want. So for us, availability won, just to be honest. And I'm a big believer, we're small town guys, that anytime I can revitalize something or add value to a community, that's what I would rather do. So if it's rehabbing a building, taking over a vacant lot that hasn't been developed before, that's like important to us. So that was a factor because we knew that lot had been vacant for a long time. And with Cousins going in next to it, I think it just helps revitalize that corridor and bring new businesses to life. And honestly, we're just better. It'll be faster. It'll be a better experience. So,
Thank you. Motions, comments, questions from commissioners? Anyone else from the public here to speak on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve subject to recommendation. I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Ryan. Final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, that's approved. Thanks, gentlemen.
thank you.
All right, 3.4, application for conditional use with exceptions by Cardinal Capital Management to convert first floor commercial spaces into 10 additional dwelling units at 7 Penn Apartments located at 622 Pennsylvania. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. Ellie Copit is here, representing the owner on this behalf. And what we're taking a look at is in October of 2018, the Plan Commission had approved the 7 Penn Apartments at 622 Pennsylvania Avenue. And the 7 Penn facility was a 5-story mixed-use apartment commercial building that included 66 market-rate multifamily apartments and approximately 8,000 square feet of first-floor commercial space and an at-grade and underground parking. The applicant indicates that they've had a difficult time attracting a tenant to lease the first floor commercial space. The space has been open since the applicants obtained occupancy, and the attempt at placing commercial space off the main A Street commercial corridor hasn't been successful, and the demand for housing is proven, and adding more market rate housing within walking distance of the A Street corridor will be an economic benefit to the local businesses. Therefore, Cardinal Capital is requesting to remodel the 8,000 square feet of commercial floor space into additional dwelling units. The first floor presently contains 8,000 of commercial space in addition to 2 apartments and a common area for residential tenants. In line with the desire for more housing in the downtown market, the owners are proposing to construct 10 additional market rate apartments within this space. The apartments will follow the same style and level of finish as the existing apartments in the building. The 10 new apartments proposed are 6 studios, 2 one-bedrooms plus den apartments, and 2 two-bedroom apartments. So the total apartment count for the building will now be 76 apartments. The primary architecture of the building will remain as constructed, with the addition of the dwelling units on the first floor. The existing windows on the south and east facades will be replaced with operable units. The original window style will remain, with the bottom window will include an operable hopper style window, and there will be 2 windows added to the north side of the building. 7 Penn Apartments is currently served by 57 underground parking spaces, 35 surface parking spaces, and 10 off-site parking spaces, for a total of 102 spaces. Additional surface parking will be developed by the owner on the parcel across the alleyway to the north of the existing building site. There's a lot that is directly to the east of the US Bank facility, and so you can see it in the site plan there. That they've purchased that as well and are using that. When the original approval came to the Plan Commission, that was one of the concerns, was potential parking. Staff hasn't heard any issues with parking at this time, and it appears with the existing parking and these 34 at grade that there should be enough parking spaces for the 76 apartments. The applicant is requesting the following variances, which were requested as part of the original, but now to have the 76 units on 1.3 acres and to have a minimum lot area of 573 square feet per unit, or per unit for an acre. So staff is recommending approval of the conditional use and exceptions. The applicants are here, and I believe there are neighbors here as well for this matter.
Any additional commentary?
I think Steve did a great job. Thank you.
Right. Questions from commissioners? Ryan?
Yeah, with these new apartments, are these leases, are they gonna require the new parking lot that you recently purchased, or, I'm just curious?
They will not require. The ownership believes that the parking ratio provided would be sufficient for these, especially because majority of them are studios. So
Okay.
it would really just need, the likelihood that there are multiple people living there with vehicles is not as common.
Of course, so through the lease, you tell the tenant either they park in that lot that's a little bit further away, or they park right behind the building, right?
I am not 100% sure that they have figured out the exact details of
Okay.
how the future tenants would be acquiring a space, but that there would be off-site parking available to them.
And Steve, all the requirements were met for the parking, right?
Yeah, technically speaking, in the central commercial zone, the parking's waived, so one of the things that we've wanted to do is just make sure that with the 76 units, that right now they got the 92 parking spaces. We want that ratio to at least be 1, if not more, and then so they have the 92 on site, and then that 34 would be available. The one thing I'll mention, the caveat with the 34 spaces, is there's another item that's on the agenda for the Sheboygan Press Building, and they would have access to those parking spaces as well.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Peter Mayer. I own the building at 502 North 6th Street, which is on the corner of 6th and Pennsylvania Avenue. It's immediately adjacent to this property. I've reviewed the materials, and I'm opposed to the plan as presented. My opposition is based upon 2 factors. First, this is a change from the original mixed use, where the original plan actually had a health clinic on the first floor or some other commercial building. But if you look at the original plans that had use of that 8,000 square feet, it was for a health clinic on the first floor, which was presented originally back in October of 2018 as a great enhancement for the downtown area. A shift over to all residential lessens the quality of the downtown building. But that's not simple enough. Actually, this is a change of the formula of the ratio of studio to 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom. The original plan that was approved was for only 4 studios, 46 1 bedrooms, and 16 2 bedrooms. So if we look at the ratio of studio to 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom, the building was originally approved with the idea of being, frankly, high-end market rate, less transient. Now we have actually the opposite side of the formula of the allocation of units, shifting over for the 10 units to a 6 studios, 2 1-bedroom, and 2 two-bedrooms. So it's an actual shift, which results in a greater level of transient, lower quality, higher density occupants, which exacerbates the lower quality or the lessening for the neighborhood. The size of the units are also smaller. The studio the size of the studio was constant between the second, third, fourth, fifth floor, and now the studios are actually trimmed down with a range between 470 square feet to, I think, 570 square feet, roughly the size of a single or double hotel room in current construction. Parking is also of concern, although I understand I haven't complained to staff about parking in the neighborhood. It is, from time to time, a serious concern. And I certainly have your phone numbers, and I certainly could have picked up the phone to call, but I wanted to see for a period of time exactly how parking looked in the neighborhood. And it does shift and change over time and over season. But if there's a meeting at the Sheriff's Department, I can assure you that parking is not available within at least a block and a half around that area. The parking concern is based in part on the formula. The original formula for 66 units, as calculated, required 107 spaces. 102 were approved. If you look at the formula of 2 bedrooms times 2, okay, and 1 bedroom or studio times 1.5, that for a multifamily in central commercial would have required 107 spaces. There were 102 approved with construction of the plan, and that 102 included a flex space 2 blocks away, more than 750 feet away, for a flex space that was 10 additional spaces of city parking utility that was contemplated in the formula. So we're already below that with the 66 units for parking, for existing parking. Then we add an additional 16 required spaces. So now we're really below. Now I understand that there is an adjacent parking lot with 34 units immediately east of the US Bank drive-through. But those 34 haven't been specified or allocated. And frankly, if all of those spaces went, then they would hit the formula if we disregard the 2 block away parking. And the reason I say disregard it is under the city ordinances, if we're more than 500 feet away, we really don't consider parking for off-site because people just don't walk that far. So again, I'm concerned about the lack of parking as it is right now. I'm certainly more concerned about a higher density of units, particularly the studios, and particularly the small size of the studios. A 470-foot studio really changes the character of that building and the neighborhood. So therefore, I request denial of the plan as presented. If there is an approval at some point in the future, I would ask additional conditions that no added entrances or exits entrances or exits be added on the south or east. I understand that these plans don't include that, but I'm a little concerned about potential risk of changes in the future, and I certainly want to make sure that there aren't entrances or exits on the south or the east. It is nice to have all of the pedestrian traffic, people going in and out of the building for security purposes, coming in from the north side for consistency. Secondly, no patios or other outside structures or improvements on the east side of the building. Third, no outside dumpsters. Rather than just screening from view, I understand that the dumpsters are in the underground parking area, and that's where they really should be. And then fourth, no additional signage. There's a quite large 7-pen sign on both sides of the building. I don't know that they're asking for or expecting any additional signage, but it's really not necessary or appropriate for the consistency of the neighborhood. Again, I appreciate your time and consideration. My opposition is simply as presented, and again, it's based on particularly the studios in that first floor area. Thank you.
All right. Any additional comments from commission members? I saw you gearing to go on that one, Ryan.
Like I say, from, Department of Public Works, we constantly deal with parking issues, and since this complex was built, we've never received anything, because I know they come across my desk, so just so the commission knows, we've never had any complaints about parking issues in that area. I think people just know with the courthouse and everything, it's always, it's just naturally tight, so, the parking seems to be working.
Dave?
What are you gonna be charging for these studio apartments, if I may ask?
Can you come to the microphone, please? Because otherwise they don't pick up on the recording. Yep.
They will be market rate apartments, so the market will drive the cost.
What is
of
that
them.
rate right now, just for a studio of that size, 500 square feet?
I don't know what that answer would be specifically at this time. There's a market study being conducted to determine the appropriate pricing for that.
Well, what are you
Must be-
charging for
market rate
your
right now is like it's close to 1,000, from my understanding.
thousand a month?
1,050 on the website for the existing studios.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments, Steve?
I don't know with regards to the no additional entrances on the east side, how that would impact any of the units. I don't think there was any plan for that. I don't know what you have in terms of comments with regards to any additional entrances on the south or east sides of the building.
My understanding for this project, if it were to be apartments, which is our intent or what our desire is and why we're coming before you, that there would be no additional patios on the first floor. There would be no additional entrances on the first floor. All parking or all trash collection will remain in the basement. The only addition or alteration to the exterior of the building would be the slight variation of the windows so that they can be operable for those apartments. And then we will be adding 2 windows as shown in the proposal on the north side of the building so that we can take advantage of that corner and make sure that that apartment has some daylight.
So if the commission would want to add anything with regards to the entrances and things like that, staff certainly doesn't have any issues with that. Dumpsters, if the applicant's okay with keeping it indoors, a lot of times the dumpsters we've had screened and enclosed outside. I don't have an issue one way or the other, but if that's not an issue, and with regards to signage, the sign code would dictate in terms of what they have, and I wouldn't recommend any sort of condition one way or the other on that. So, but if the commission wants to add anything with regards to entrances and things like that, that's certainly something they could do.
My comment for that would be to consider retail, or if there is a commercial entrance. I think one of the things that's being detrimental to this space is that the entrance to the retail or the commercial space is through the apartment building.
Well, there is no retail anymore.
I know, but if this,
So that's why we're here, and I would still continue
Right.
with the entrances. I personally don't have a problem with that condition.
Chad, how does this play a role in the housing study and how we're kind of achieving and walking towards our goal?
Well, I don't know that this would, this is market rate. So, it helps in having more housing units and they've been, full. So there's a demand for this housing to compare to the housing study is difficult because the housing study focused on more affordability. And I wouldn't necessarily consider this to be on the level that we're looking for in the affordability, but we do know that we need more housing units. And I think, there's some merit in what was just discussed, but at the same token, this has also stayed vacant since 2018 and there hasn't been very little interest. And I know it was originally planned for Prevea to have a downtown clinic and that fell through when the construction was completed. So I think from a city standpoint of getting some additional housing units, because we know we need them, and the fact that we're occupying vacant space and having very little issues on the outside of the building, staff is in support of it.
Cool, thanks, Chad. Additional comments, thoughts from commission members? Did you press that, Ryan? No, I didn't. Oh. Motions?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 3.5, application for conditional use permit with exceptions by Cardinal Capital Management to convert the former Sheboygan Press Building into new apartment building, 632 Center Avenue. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. So we're taking a look at the Sheboygan Press Building, which closed in 2019, 632 Center Avenue. Again, Ali Kopit is here representing Cardinal Capital with regards to the reuse of this facility. And Cardinal Capital Investment is proposing to renovate the historic Sheboygan Press Building into 29 apartments. There would be 1 studio, 14 one-bedroom units, and 14 two-bedroom. 3 of the 2-bedroom apartments will be lofted units. The building has been confirmed to meet the eligibility requirements, and application will be filed to place the building on the National Register of Historic Places, and historic tax credits along with conventional debt would be financed the renovation of the building. The 29 apartment homes will be contained entirely within the parcel building, and there will be no additional square footage added to the parcel. The primary architecture of the building will remain as constructed, and there will be no additions put onto the building. The majority of the existing windows will be replaced with insulated glazing units to match the original window design. Where modifications to the building took place, the building will be renovated to either match the original construction or match the existing historic features. The Sheboygan Press Apartments will be served by 2 surface parking lots adjacent to the building. 1 surface lot across the alleyway to the north, and 1 surface parking lot across Center Avenue to the southeast of the US Bank facility. So that's the one that we just spoke about for the use by Penn Avenue and Sheboygan Press. The historic Sheboygan Press building is an asset to downtown, and the attractive building is close to downtown amenities, and adding more market rate housing within walking distance of South 8th Street corridor will be an economic benefit to the local businesses. Applicant indicates that they've purchased that parcel that we've talked about to the east of the US Bank facility. So that appears the existing parking lot can approximately handle about 34 at-grade parking spaces. And the applicant believes that the 37 on-site parking, 17 on their property, 20 on the north property north of the alley, and this off-site are enough for the 29 apartments. Plan Commission may want to ask the applicant what structures, if any, are to be demolished. I think there were a couple that have been removed already. Whereas dumpster enclosure and this particular site, will there be doing any other types of site improvements or landscaping? And how does the shared parking lot work with regards to tenants and guests of the Sheboygan Press and 7 Penn? The applicant is requesting the following variance, and that's to have a minimum of lot area of 1,881 square feet per unit. And staff is recommending approval of the conditional use with the exceptions, subject to the conditions. The applicants are here, and I don't know if there's neighbors here for this one.
Additional comments?
Not this time.
Okay, since I'm the chair, I get to ask the first question. Chad, how does this one fit into the city's housing plans?
So this one does fit into the city's housing plans. So the affordable housing study that was rolled out in March of 2021, even though this is a market rate deal, does fall within the parameters of the rent structure that the study identified, and the study identified the need for, I think it's 67 units in the rent thresholds that this project will be providing. The city will be providing some TIF incentives towards this deal for the historic renovation and for some environmental issues. And that was the basis for making it, as it fits into what we're trying to do on adding additional affordable units.
Awesome, thank you, Chad. Another question I have for the applicant. I know you mentioned that you're gonna be putting this on the historic list of places, whatever the register. There we go. I guess in terms of your plans moving forward, is there any thought about incorporating kind of the historical components of, you know, what the building was before, just in terms of design inside, artwork, whatever that might be?
Sure.
Like, kind of like, I don't know if you know the Garden Toy Factory apartments, for example. You know, they got toys and stuff or whatever in there as well too. So something similar to that.
Sure. So this building is, It's a little different. It wasn't a factory, and so it won't look like a factory on the
Yeah.
inside. That's the thing. So, per the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, if the building is originally historically finished, meaning that it has drywall or plaster, then it needs to then return or retain that quality. So all mechanical systems will be concealed. There will not be spiral duct. It will not look like a loft industrial type thing. It needs to meet those Secretary of the Interior's standards. Where we are returning it to previous design intent is by getting rid of the windows. Windows are definitely a character defining feature. And so in the application, I shared some historic photos that we were able to get a hold of. Those actually show a nice period-appropriate window. So there's a transom above, and you can actually see on the top of that photo, those windows opened. So we're going to actually make those open again, so they'll be outswing casement windows with the transom above it. So that will actually help the building look more period-appropriate than the large pieces of glass it currently has. And then we actually, the photos that I shared, the previous owner kind of gutted the building pretty good. But we do have the original weather center right towards right next to the front entry. If you zoom in on that bottom left corner photo, you'll see a little piece of wood with some dials. So we actually intend to leave that feature as well as some of the wood trim in the office and the fireplace for the lounge area. So there are some elements that we intend to leave. The green tile will stay in the press room. The glass block will stay in the press room. So we're going to leave as much as we can, but unfortunately there's just not much left.
Okay, just was curious. Questions for commissioners? Jerry?
Just specifically, any outdoor buildings that will be demolished? I know Steve alluded to it, but anything outside that's going away?
Nothing else will be demolished that's left. So there was a little bit of a outbuilding on the northwest corner of the site that's already been taken down, but it really wasn't serving much purpose for the use of the building, and it allows us to get more parking on the site with the removal of that structure.
Okay, thank you.
Marilyn?
Just a couple of questions. The big glass room on the east side is going to be what?
They're going to be 3 lofted apartments, so.
With glass walls?
With glass walls.
Okay, good answer. Right, okay. And of course, what will it be called? The Sheboygan Press Apartments, I hope, something like that?
I hope so as well. We're in those discussions currently, but
Not Mockingbird Lofts or some god-awful name?
I don't think so. That wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
I agree with you.
Okay, and then, of course, you know the story of when all the windows were blown out, the explosion across the street, because that's part of that building
Right.
history. Okay. That's all.
Why do you look at me?
The other thing that I think is key to note, and you kind of touched on it, but in the southern corner of this building where the fitness center and lounges used to be the editor's office, and I don't know if anybody had ever been in there, but the editor's office had this really grand fireplace and this, sleeping room and all this other kind of stuff in there from the day when the editor probably was there 24 hours a day. I don't know, but some of those features will be brought forward in the community space and preserved as part of this plan, as I understand it as well.
That is correct. You can see the fireplace kind of still shown in front of that seating area. The conference table is kind of where the desk would have been. So our thought is that, this was a space of business, and creating a co-working and community space seemed appropriate.
Cool. Ryan?
Yeah, my question is, what about the dumpster enclosure? That's gonna be interior someplace?
So
or-
yeah, if you actually could use, I don't know who's controlling this, some magical person is controlling this, but if you go over to the upper right portion of the page, that loading area, that's going to be our trash collection space.
Might be a picture of that.
Other questions from commission members? Motions from,
Motion to approve along with staff recommendation.
Second?
motion second, final thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving, please state aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye, that is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is 3.6, RO 128, 21, 22 by general ordinance number 39, 21, 22 by Alderperson Perella granting Harbor Center Cafe LLC and its successors and assigns the privilege of encroaching upon described portions of 342 South Pier Drive in the city of Sheboygan for the purposes of adding an outside seating deck. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. Sam Leroy is here from Quashis representing Jason LeBouvier, who recently recently purchased the property and came to the Plan Commission to open and operate the Harbor Cafe. This is the shanty nearest the miniature golf course. And so at that point in time, they wanted to get the approval to operate the cafe from the interior. The plans weren't quite developed for a deck at that time, and now they're looking to do a deck on the exterior for their visitors to take a look and eat, drink, and take a look at the nice sights of the river, skyline, the lake. And so they went to architectural review. They've added a lot of nice decking that is similar in terms of style and design to the facility itself. And then on the actual west side of the building, they are looking at adding a little bit of a patio kind of area on the west side, an outdoor area with landscaping and landscape block, so for their guests to have the opportunity to sit and take advantage of the weather and the opportunity outdoors. So staff was recommending in the area along the South Pier, there's an area that's wider than the riverfront promenade, goes about 12 feet, and that's because there's a wall and dead men that hold up the seawall that come in that area, so we don't want any building structures in that area, and that's why the city maintained it. But we have allowed for people to use that grass area for decks, and staff is recommending approval.
Anything else to add? Okay, cool. Ryan?
I see the contractors here. Just work with the Department of Public Works on what kind of patio we're gonna build there. I said there's several of them along that stretch, so it's doable.
Other comments?
Make a motion to approve, subject to recommendations.
Motion second. Mayor's comment, looks good. Excited to put a patio out there. So they'll be busy in the summer for sure. So, all right, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Thank you. Next is 3.7 preliminary plat approval for Maywood Estate in the town of Sheboygan extraterritorial plat review. Steve?
All right, thanks, Mayor. Ross Warner is here from Warner Homes, who's looking at doing the Maywood Estates in the town of Sheboygan. As I've mentioned previously, the city does have what's referred to as extraterritorial platting rights. So any areas within 3 miles of the city within the towns have to come to the Plan Commission for approval. Oftentimes, we're taking a look at transportation and different things like that from the standpoint of, are these subdivisions impacting? That's not doing anything in this particular case, so staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat. I believe there might be a neighbor here for this one as well.
Any comments from the applicant?
Thanks, Steve. I think you summarized that well. I have no additional comments.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item? Anyone?
No.
I see you, Jim.
Thank you. My name is Jim Van Akron. I'm a resident of Sheboygan, but I'm here on behalf of the Elwood H. May Environmental Park Association. I know a number of you have direct contact, have been on our board, have volunteered, have participated in our programming, and I'm here because this subdivision directly abuts the Maywood Park. And the Maywood Park is an environmental park. We have taken great pains to make it an environmental park. And I just want to remind you, for those of you who are not familiar with Maywood, what we are all about. The Maywood Environmental Park Association was founded in 1983 to support the mission of the city of Sheboygan's Maywood Park. We're basically a volunteer organization, a friend of the parks organization. What we do is we provide environmental education opportunities for all ages. We enhance recreational areas for walking, hiking, birding, wildlife viewing, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing. We take it upon ourselves to improve and maintain the park grounds and trails and create new features such as the solar panels that are at the park, interpretive signs, overlooks in the park, and we are currently in the planning stages of a new or modified sugaring shack that we have at the park. The association in the past has raised money and built the ecology center at the park and then donated that to the city of Sheboygan. We have also provided money to modify buildings and grounds in the park. We work with the city to provide money to hire the staff at the park, including most recently a custodial staff to care for the inside of the building. The building, as I said, belongs to the city, but we've taken it upon ourselves to assist the city in keeping that building clean. We connect our community to the natural world. We inspire people to care for our environment both locally and globally. Our mission is to foster environmental stewardship through education and outdoor experiences designed to connect the community with our natural world. Our purpose is to be open to the public year-round and offer environmental education opportunities, outdoor recreation, and hands-on experiences. Our vision is to foster environmental stewardship by providing opportunities for community members to explore, learn, and enjoy Maywood's facilities, natural landscape, and programming. We build community awareness of the value of Maywood to Sheboygan and surrounding regions through our outreach and promotional materials. We strive to connect our community to the natural world and to be a targeted destination for visitors and community members across all generations. I want to thank Ross Werner of Werner Homes. He has taken time to discuss with me and members of the Maywood Association the vision Werner Homes has for this subdivision. I'm here to speak because of the concerns we have about the subdivision abutting the park. Because I believe these are the association's concerns, I also believe that they should be the city of Sheboygan's concerns, since it is a city, excuse me, a city park. Before I outline those concerns, I just want to emphasize I'm not anti-development. I previously have served on the Sheboygan Area School Board of Education for 7 years. I know how property evaluations and development can be beneficial to governmental bodies such as school boards, cities, and townships. But here are the concerns that we have. There is a trail that runs immediately east of the lots on the east side of the plan. Our concern is, as we have seen in other areas of the park that are adjacent to residential areas, is that residences create their own trails into the park, and these become unauthorized trails, affecting the foliage in the park, affecting erosion in the park. So we think that we believe there should be a plan of some type of access to the park trail system that would funnel the residents to use the park. We're more than open to trying to do that. We spoke of these matters with Mr. Werner. We've walked the trails. We've given him some suggestions. I spoke at the Town of Sheboygan Plan Commission and offered them suggestions on what could happen. There is an area on the far south side of the plan that will become a water containment pond or retention pond area. That would be probably the most logical area for the and access to Maywood Park. The problem is that the township expressed some concern about funneling people close to the pond area. So I suggested to Mr. Werner that we add a path somewhere through the lots on the east side so that it could join the trails at Maywood. We're also concerned about the plantings that will occur in this area. Maywood, the city of Sheboygan, in partnership with the Lakeshore Natural Resources Partnership, the Wisconsin Conservation Corps, and Stantec Environmental Services have spent thousands of dollars to eliminate invasive species in the park and in the Pigeon River corridor. That intermittent stream, that green area you see, feeds right into the Pigeon River. Plantings that would go into the subdivision could easily be transferred, their seeds could easily be transferred into the park and to other areas of the Pigeon River corridor. For those of you who are familiar, the city has done a great deal of effort to remove one plant called Phragmites. The mouth of the Pigeon River was loaded with Phragmites. And through the partnership with Lakeshore Natural Resources Partnership and thousands of dollars spent, those have been removed. Now, if somebody would decide to plant Phragmites in this area, that would become it would go against what we've been trying to accomplish over the last few years to eliminate. And that's only one example. Birds, animals, humans carry seeds into the park. There are other plants such as barberry. If you ever are familiar with the area around Colarandre near just off of 12th Street, the woods there are just jammed with barberry. They're taking over. And it's not a plant that is a natural plant for our area, and it doesn't promote the natural environment, including the other animals and other plants in the area. So we are concerned about the type of plantings that might go into that area. We are concerned also about the intermittent stream that runs through there. The containment pond or the retention pond will be a water, there'll be water in that pond. Everything will go into that pond and it'll be set for a 100-year flood level, which will, the water that normally ran into that stream will no longer be running into that stream. That stream, actually, we have observed a number of larger species in there, and I'm sure if it was studied, you'd find other plants and animals, but we've seen trout up into that stream, we've seen turtles in that stream. All that will be affected by the diversion of that water into the retainment pond. And I understand why that retainment pond is necessary, because you have all that hard surface and that water has to go somewhere when it runs off that hard surface into the pond. Since I'm speaking about the pond, one of our concerns about the pond is the landscaping around the pond. We believe it should be a natural landscape similar to grasses that grow in this area. It will, rather than just a grass that you have on a lawn or similar to a lawn that's mowed regularly, should be natural grasses. One of the things that we'll address is a concern that the township raised, which is to have that children might be attracted to this area. And if you have larger grasses growing in that area, that'll dissuade them from children from going into that area. In addition, as we know, these ponds tend to attract waterfowl, geese, etc. And the grasses, if you had a larger, taller grasses, that'll help dissuade them from coming into the area because they cannot see for their protection around those grasses. Yesterday when I spoke with Mr. Werner, he mentioned that there was going to be a swale on the east side where the land abuts the park. Those lots on the east side will have a slope down toward the Maywood property, and this would divert any water coming down into would go into the swale and head south. I suggested, and I believe the city should be promoting the idea that that swale would be naturally landscaped also. Because it's immediately adjacent to our trail, the more that we can have a natural landscape in that area, the better the experience will be for people to use the Maywood Trail. I also want to just mention that there is a section of unplatted land, that is that far south section of the map that you can see. And the association has discussed for years an interest in purchasing this land. It's now, it has since been purchased by the township, and the township has then transferred the ownership to Mr. Werner. And that land is unplatted at this point, but I think it would be ideal for help to preserve that area for the natural setting and be a natural part of the Maywood Park. So I just want you as a plan commission to be aware that the association is definitely interested in assisting in the purchase of that property. We also are concerned about the light pollution that a development creates. Mr. Werner has indicated that there are not plans for any street lights on the roadway. However, I think whatever plan is approved should make clear that there never will be in the future. Light pollution is one of the things that dissuades or creates problems for the natural environment, especially birds. Maywood is a major attraction for our area for people who like to do birding because of the Pigeon River corridor, because of the natural setting there, and because of the protection that the corridor provides. So light is not something that birds like to see. They tend to avoid that. Finally, we are concerned about the use of the name of Maywood. As envisioned by the developer, the subdivision is not consistent with our mission of environmental stewardship, and therefore the Maywood name should not be used either in the apparently the roadway is no longer going to be called Maywood Drive, but also just the subdivision should not be called Maywood Drive, or the subdivision should not be called Maywood. Ideally, we would like to see a development consistent with environmental stewardship. This would include the type of landscaping used, the type of herbicides and pesticides used, energy efficient housing, and renewable energy sources. I think all of those would be consistent with the Maywood name. And as I said, we accept the idea that this is going to be developed in some way. We just want it to be consistent with our needs in the park, the city of Sheboygan's needs in that park. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jim. Just a few notes from my end as well, too. I did talk with some additional folks on this topic. The Maywood Park Director, as well, expressed some concerns. I did speak with Dan Hine, the town chairman, just to kind of play the middleman between Maywood and the town, just to elevate some of the concerns Maywood had on this topic as well, too. So our planning staff did inform me that this is a plat approval, so we can't set conditions because it's in a different municipality. So this is really just an up or down vote on our end. So just to understand that for commission members. Comments, thoughts, concerns? Marilyn?
Just a couple of questions for Mr. Werner. It makes sense for you to call it Maywood, because that's a big draw. But if that ends up being the name, those owners know that Maywood Park does not belong to Maywood Estates. And you have a big responsibility being next door to Maywood. And I remember when Mr. May gave the name, or gave the property to the city, were there any restrictions on the Maywood name? I have no idea when that was done.
That would be a question for the city attorney.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know that there were, but you'd like to know that before you take that name, right?
Yeah, I guess I have no comments on the use of the name. I wouldn't know if, this is in the town of Sheboygan. I would assume that this land would not have any restrictions on it for use of the name Maywood.
Additional comments from Commission Member Steve?
So you heard their concerns. Any thoughts about changing the name?
At this time, no. I think Maywood was, from a logical standpoint, it helps determine where it's a landmark in the area, so I think it does help determine that. We're open to changing the name, and we're not planning on putting any monumental signs up or anything that's establishing saying this is Maywood Estates when you show up there. It's really more of the legal name that's going to be used on the plats, as well as, when we're selling the lots, it's the name that's on the sales documents itself. But once these are sold, there's no use of the name anywhere else.
John?
So they said there was trails, residents tend to kind of make their own. Is that something you guys would consider? Because I could see moving in this area, being close to Maywood and wanting to be really part of that experience. Is that something you guys would kind of take on and look at doing for these?
Yeah, we certainly have always been open to the idea of a trail. I think in working with the town on this, one of the conditions that we discussed that was ultimately not required was the use of a trail, because they weren't sure at that time if they wanted to. It's on an outlot, so that is going to be dedicated back to the town. So they were not opposed to the idea, but they also weren't comfortable requiring it at that time, because we still have further engineering to do to determine the size of the pond. And as was mentioned, is it safe to have a pond next to a walkway? So I think there's open questions there still, but at this point, there's no decisions made one way or the other if a pathway will be provided.
Additional comments, Ryan?
Yeah, I just want the commission to know that when it comes to the design of retention ponds, they're heavily mandated by the DNR with all the rules and requirements. So there's rules and regulations you got to follow. It's the same rules and regulations that we have to follow. So just so you know that.
Okay. Other thoughts from commission members?
Do you need a motion to approve? Yeah, yes, I'll do that.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and second. Final comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That one is approved. Thank you. Next item, we have unfinished business 3.2, application for conditional use with exceptions by Jim Petter to construct 2 new second-floor apartments at 516 North 8th Street.
Glad you're here, Jim.
Steve?
We almost tabled this. So Jim Peters here, and he owns 516 North 8th Street, and 516 North 8th Street is the old Milwaukee PC building. Jim's owned and operated Milwaukee PC in the building for, I believe, 25 years, and recently the first floor commercial space was vacated. In the meantime, Jim has had efforts over the years to try to get a commercial use in the second floor and hasn't had any luck. So he is here today requesting a conditional use permit to create 2 apartments in the second floor space. There's been no rent from the second floor or half the building for over 20 years, making it difficult to maintain and let alone improve the building. To make the largest economical and physical improvement on the building, the second story needs to be residential, and creating the new apartments would increase property tax, bring additional residents in downtown, and allow Jim the opportunity to make the necessary improvements to an old and outdated building. Mr. Peters proposing 2 brand-new 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments. These apartments will have separate and new plumbing, electrical, HVAC. They'll have brand-new open kitchens with modern amenities and appliances, and he hopes to expose some of the original brick and roof joists. The second floor original purpose was built in the 1800s, was residential, and at some point was converted to offices for the business that ran the pharmacy on the first floor. The north alley side of the building will get 13 new windows and is proposing to replace the deteriorated windows with insulated vinyl units matching the appearance of the bronze color to match the windows on the street facade, and the existing bricks in fairly poor shape, and he'd like to match the color of the that facade with some new paint to brighten up that alley. Staff and the Plan Commission have been encouraging downtown living. Mr. Peters taking advantage of some of the city programs to help fund underutilized second floor space into housing units. He'll work with the building inspection department. There were a couple of items just on that alley side that looked like old mechanicals or old things that were just out. Yeah, I was just wondering if that stuff could get removed. And then there was a little bit of discussion with city development that we'd have to go further with Mr. Peter, but talk about potentially, instead of just painting that wall, maybe working with the city to do possibly another mural potentially. So that Mr. Peter has been open to that discussion. We haven't walked all the way through that, but staff was recommending approval of the requested conditional use permit.
Cool. Additional comments?
No, that pretty much tells a story.
Cool. Comments, thoughts, motions from commission members?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, one at a time, guys, come on.
I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Ryan, final thoughts? All those in favor of approval, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, next meeting, possibly March 29th?
Yep.
All right, yep. Steve says yes.
Yes.
We've exhausted the agenda. All those in favor of adjourning, please state aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. We're adjourned at 5:11. Thanks, everybody.
The other day. So I'm getting there. Really slow.